In this lesson, we're going to be looking at meta tags. And most websites, if you go to them and if you inspect the source of a website, you're going to find that there is meta information. So specifying the content type, as well as sometimes including keywords, which used to be very relevant with SEO purposes, but not as relevant. Description is still relevant when you do a search. This is the description that the search engines typically will use for the web page. So even though they might not help with ranking, it might help with users being able to better understand what to expect from the page. So it always is a good idea to include a description, as well as specifying the content type. So let's go into the editor and we're going to add in some of this meta information. And there's also the viewport setting, which is good for all types of devices, setting up the view size of the document. So the meta information lives within the head section of the website, within the head tags, and it's just specified by the meta tag. And then within the attributes, this is where it's different. So there's different types of meta tags, meta information that you can add to your web page. So they've got the author and then the content for author. All of the content within the meta tags, it's not required, but it is a good idea if you can include it. And the content contained within the meta information is relevant for search engines and social media platforms. So meta name, and we'll do one for description. So again, within the content of the description. And let's add in the viewport as well. So within the meta. And then this will set the content size that we're outputting for the viewport. So set the width to equal the device width. And the initial scale is going to be equal to 1. So do a refresh. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference unless you're going on a mobile device. Then there will be a difference to how the content takes up the available screen size and the screen space. So there's more information available at Mozilla Developer Network about the viewport. And it gives you an example of how to set and mobile optimize your site. So this is a default, a typical way to set that, and that's the same meta information that we set. If you want to update and customize the scaling, you can do that as well within the viewport meta information. And also if you want to customize the different screen widths. But I would usually suggest just going with the default, which is the same one that they've got here as the basic scale and width. And this is going to be sufficient in most cases unless you really want to customize the way the content is being output on different devices. And let's look at the source for Mozilla. So they are specifying that it's HTML5 document. Within the HTML tag, they're specifying the language. So that is another option within the attributes where you could set a language and then specify the language value. So if the content is within English or another language, then that allows the browser, in order to better understand what content to expect. There's also another one that is commonly used, and that's setting the character set. Again, within the meta tag and setting it within the attributes of the meta tag, you can set the character set. And this again helps the browser better understand what type of content to expect and the character set that the content is going to be written in. There's one that's for the search engine robots. So this is the meta name robots. So index follow, and that's the default anyway. But if you don't want your page to be indexed, you can set it as no follow, and that will mean that when the search engines are coming to your website, they're not going to follow the contents of the website. So besides no follow and no index, so the no index is not going to show the search results, whereas the no follow will not follow the links on the page. None is equivalent to no index, no follow, so that will include both of those. And also if you just set it to all, so that means that there's no restrictions on indexing or service. There's also typical social media tags. So these tags here for social media, they're also meta tags, and they're going to help the different social media platforms select images and also better be able to share your content from your website. And there are a lot of different social media tags that you can add, as you can see from this example. And social media as well will use the content contained within the meta description tag. So keep that in mind. I'm going to add in some default social media content that you should include within your meta information. And a lot of the social media platforms will share. So Open Graph is typical. Facebook and other social media platforms will look for these tags to be filled out. And notice as well that there's images. So these are the images that appear when you do or when somebody does share your page on social media. So these meta tags are all optional, and you can include them or you don't have to include them. It's up to you depending on what you're trying to do with your web content and your web page.